We have with us this afternoon Mr. David Nelms, CEO of Discover. Thank you for being with us this afternoon, Mr. Nelms. Our first question is, what are the characteristics of a great leader?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to care about people. And I think a great leader listens to people and take interest in them not only professionally but even personally. And I think that instills a strong desire of to help contribute and of loyalty. And I think someone who only focuses on the results versus focusing on the people who need to deliver those results is not going to get the results.
What are the greatest challenges you've faced as a leader?
Well, there's plenty. Certainly being the CEO of a financial services company, new public company, over the last 18 months during the financial crisis was challenging. Never thought I'd have to worry about rolling my debt or financing or accounting changes, regulatory changes. But one that comes to mind, you tend to remember the crises over time, and they can come unexpectedly. Our sister company was actually, Dean Witter was actually the largest single group of employees in the World Trade Center, 3,600 employees. And so when the towers were hit, the overall company CEO called me and said, "Can you help locate our people?" And so we actually were the first to get the phone line up on, and we started taking all the calls to try to locate people, even before the airlines did. And we took 60,000 phone calls in 3 days. And in a crisis, you learned what people can do, and you roll your sleeves up and you're working on spreadsheets and you're literally answering the phone with people who are in trouble. And it's not something you expect in business, but things like that can come along during a business career. And afterwards, you realize that you can accomplish more than just business, and unexpected things can actually bring people together as you work around the clock to solve a crisis.
How did your engineering education prepare you for leadership?
Well, I think engineering is a great background for problem-solving skills, the ability to focus, the analytic skills. All of these are very important. And I think that you need communication skills and other skills over time, but as a foundation, I think it's one of the best. When I went to Harvard Business School, I thought I'd be in the minority, and actually I found that 27%, the largest single group of my classmates, had engineering undergraduate degrees. And so it obviously is not an uncommon background to go on and go into general management, not just a specialty.
What other methods of leadership development were important in your growth as a leader?
Lots of learning all along, and plenty of conferences, off-sites, other curriculum. You're not. You shouldn't think you're done with school when you graduate. Even today, I am still learning. I am still going on off-sites with my people. I'm still getting feedback and figuring out what I can do better. And so that learning and development never really should stop.
What advice would you give to students who want to become great leaders?
I think one of the most important things is, I'll go back to learning, particularly early on. And I think as one picks what job offer to take or what assignment to take, I think one of the top criteria one ought to think about before what the starting pay is or what the glamour of the job is where can I learn the most? And particularly if you're not as strong in a certain area, that's probably an area that you might choose to actually take an assignment or volunteer to give a presentation if that makes you uncomfortable, and to really think about learning and developing the most, because you're still developing a foundation, and a lot of the learning that you'll use happens in those first 5 or 10 years after you graduate from college.
What can universities do to support leadership development?
I think that some of the broad skills, like communication skills, are sometimes what I see as a shortcoming of people. we tend to be so specialized, and there's so much information that one needs to learn now, especially when they're in a technical degree. And so, but there's lots of people with good ideas. The trick is to be able to sell your idea. And so to do that, you have to be able to communicate it succinctly. You've got to get it into terms that someone else can understand. If you're leading a team, you've got to learn how to motivate people who may have multiple priorities themselves, but you need to, one way or another, make them want to help you or your project. So some of those softer skills, I think, are things that I often find we're trying to, sometimes we have to be almost remedial later on. But I think the people, if there were a way to have a little more opportunities for presentations, more opportunities, and obviously the schools, University of Florida does a lot in that area, but there's even more in some of those softer skills and communications. No matter what you end up doing, you end up needing to be real successful. You got to have great communication and teamwork skills.
How has globalization impacted leadership?
I think that it's critical to learn and understand different cultures, and I have spent a lot of time, particularly in China, Japan, other parts of Asia, and the culture is very different, and relationships are very different, and I think just spending enough time to really learn the cultures and realize that some of the ceremonial stuff is important to them, and you have to be more patient. It's a different, here in the U.S. we're ready to do everything now, but sometimes they have to get to know you and trust you before they'll really become your partner. And I think that's true in Europe, and we tend to think that the whole world is like us, and I think the fact that many people around the world actually speak English helps reinforce that. But underneath the surface, they're not all exactly like us, but they have important parts of diversity and different points of view and different ways of doing business. And I think it's important to learn and understand that and take the time to understand these other cultures.
What key events or people were instrumental in putting you on the path to leadership?
Well, there's lots over time. I'd say there were two people in particular that maybe took a chance on me when I really didn't have the experience probably that maybe others had. And one was when I had an idea for a new business area, and I was a 27-year-old consultant, and this credit card company first rejected the idea but then agreed, and it ended up being something very big. So I think it would have been hard to listen to someone that young, and then 10 years later I was 37 and someone took a shot on me, and I was at 37 running Discover Card, 12,000 employees, 50 million card holders, and fortunately I figured out how to add value and what to do, but it was clearly some people who I worked for took a chance on me, and I think it's important that it's not just about seniority and a different process, but taking the time. There were people along the way that took time to mentor me and then took chances and gave me some projects that allowed me to learn and to prove myself, and that's very important. It's very important for all of us to do the same as well.
Just to follow up on that, what kinds of things have you done or do you think can be done institutionally to spread that kind of risk-taking and personnel development?
One of the most important things, I think, is to rotate people, and that takes some work because people don't like to let go of their best people, and that tends to keep people in certain silos. So we have really tried to focus on a couple times a year talking about who are the best people, how long they've been in that position. I know they're great in collections, but maybe we should move them on the network, and a lot of times people are resistant because the best people are doing a great job, but it's amazing. Sometimes we'll even just do job swaps or three-way swaps, and almost invariably, we did a three-way swap recently, and all three of them did a better job at the new job than the old, even though we all thought all three were superstars before. So I think that's one. I think requiring some mentoring, and some of that happens naturally. Some of that we actually encourage, and we certainly management. We have various management training programs, but there's a lot of things that an institution can do to encourage learning. And one of the things I think is important is to pick a company, and there's lots of companies that do this well, I think. But pick a company that that has the ability to that has special learning programs and classes that you can take and encourages education and has rotation, because I think those companies tend to be more successful, and they tend to develop someone more broadly.
Do you have any special incentives for the employees that serve as mentors to others?
I would say the incentive is that they get better exposure to the best people. Mm-hmm. And I think they get rewarding. It's rewarding, obviously, to see someone who you're mentoring develop and progress. But oftentimes people will, the best people will want to be in working for that person, and so they tend to get the pick of the litter, and that's probably the biggest reward.
Terrific insights. Thank you so much for speaking with us this afternoon, Mr. Nelms.
Good, thank you.